The Broadwell E CPUs are here, and of course the motherboard lineup for the X99 platform has to receive an upgrade. So here at Gigabyte booth, here's all the little upgrades for their X99 and Z170 lineup of motherboards.
Huge thanks to our Computex sponsors for sending us out here. Shout out to NVIDIA, Fantex, NCIX, and MSI.
One of the boards that I'm most excited about is the X99 Designare. This is their new lineup there, which is going to be sort of following the ultra durable space. So the X99 will feature a full display port in, so that means that you can reroute the GPU from your GPU discrete graphics card back into the motherboard and out of the Thunderbolt 3.0 port. So for content creators, if you have a Thunderbolt 3 compatible monitor, you can route that directly through the motherboard, which is fantastic. They've also increased the spacing between the first and the second PCI slot, so very compatible with their new Extreme GTX 1080s graphics cards, which has 2.5 slots, so you can run in two-way SLI without restricting compatibility between the two PCI slots. And on topic of SLI, there is now a PLX chip that's built in, so it will allow the first and second slot to run at full X16 3.0 speed without needing the most high-end processor. So even with the lower end, with basically any chip that is supported by the motherboard, you'll still run both PCI slots at full speed. There are dual U2 ports, which is awesome for NVMe SSDs. And lastly, for physical upgrades, they've added full RGB lighting. So it has this underglow underneath the DIMMs, underneath the PCI brackets, underneath the heat sinks, and it was going to be full RGB support. So you can customize not only the look of, let's say, the logo and the audio little strip, but pretty much everything on the motherboard, which I actually really appreciate. So you don't need to get like LED RAM and all these things. The motherboard can be like the cohesive hub for all the lighting inside your components, or for your components inside your PC. The Z170 lineup has received similar physical upgrades, so there are now metal shielding on the PCI, the DIMMs, the M.2 slots, and they also added the ambient lighting throughout the board. Very cool stuff. And unlike on the X99 motherboard, this one, the Z170, has received a mini display port in, so you can reroute again the graphics output back into the motherboard and back into the Thunderbolt 3.0, so you can reroute that signal into a Thunderbolt monitor. And now let's talk about the GTX 1080 Extreme Gaming. Here are my favorite bits. So first, they've shortened the card. The boards in the past have been too long. People were complaining the shroud size was just way too large. So now they have this patented stack fan design where the fans overlap, have smaller blades and one smaller fan in the middle fan, which is pretty cool. And this will allow us basically more airflow without increasing on the shroud size. Because of this, the fans are slightly thicker and the card is 2.5 slots. Therefore, we talked about the X99 having that extra spacing between the first and the second slot. There you go. Gigabyte's thinking about their GPU on their motherboards. Compatibility is not an issue. So design-wise, it will have full RGB. There's this giant X along the shroud. In my opinion, the logo there is a little bit too large, but it's Gigabyte. You gotta show it off. And there's this new backplate with a new logo. And we have dual HDMI on the back, so you can pass through for VR applications and also for Thunderbolt pass-through. And lastly, here at Gigabyte, we're going to check out the Arrow 14, which is a 14-inch size notebook. It has quite a bit of power into it, great battery life, and quite a customizability. So design-wise, I really like what Gigabyte has done there. It's slim, it's light at 1.9 kilos, and we have this new nanoprint technology on the lid with orange, black, and green color accents with the carbon fiber little texture there. Pretty cool. While for this 14-inch form factor, the specifications are pretty impressive. So we have a 970M or a 965M, the GTX graphics, M.2 PCI SSD. It is 1.9 kilos, up to 32 gigabytes of memory, and up to 10 hours battery life in productivity mode. The display here is pretty cool. It's 3K and it's IPS. You know, these specifications really definitely lead into that productivity, entertainment, creative field. So I'm really happy to see this being available. And the keyboard now is also improved. The travel time is 1.7 millimeters instead of the average of 1.1 millimeters. So that's nice. I tried it. Very tactile. Travel distance is quite far, and you have no idea how much that matters on a very thin body like this to make sure that your typing experience is enjoyable. And in conclusion, we've seen some pretty amazing stuff here at Gigabyte, especially the mods. The red and white mod here was absolutely incredible. Water cooled, and all the things in the back there were all the cable management and all the water cooling stuff was built into one acrylic piece, which was so fantastic to see and fits in with that red and white color scheme of that X99 motherboard. But let us know what you think about all the things that we covered here today. I'm Dimitri with Canucks. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.